welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. This morning is a special day for Old Bill. This morning, Mrs. Busby, because of the guest we have. And we always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or two. So I think with your leisure, she owns 50% of the store. I have to defer to her anything she wants, Tom. Anyway, by your leisure, I'm going to use Vinegar Hill as our kudo for today. I use that in a general way and in a loose way, but I use it advisedly because those folks know how to go coalesce and get together and cooperate and get things done. And that's going to be the subject of our conversation today. So kudos to the residents, large, small, old, and young. Do you have any young ones over there, Tom?
Quite a few.
For all they do for Vinegar Hill. So go right ahead and introduce our guest this morning. He's a very special young man to me.
And the reason Vinegar Hill is so successful is people like you, Tom. Tom Martin is our guest today. We're going to talk about the market on the hill, that be Vinegar Hill. And that community is very blessed to have any number of people down through the years who've cared enough to put their money where their mouth is and shut their mouth and get busy. And you're certainly chief among them, Tom Martin. Tell me, how did you come to be called Vinegar Hill? Do you know that story?
Yeah, that's an old one, but
yeah, it is.
The museum would probably, not want me all speaking on their behalf, but for what I understand was during the temperance movement, it wasn't really prohibition yet, it was during the temperance movement, most of Illinois, shut down any alcohol sales, and Mount Pulaski was known for their many taverns in town. And they kind of resisted the efforts to be able to close down their taverns and shut off alcohol sales. And so what happened is they were one of the only communities in central Illinois that remained wet, I guess.
Oh.
And so what they would do is a lot of the trains would bring people from Peoria, Decatur, Springfield, and Bloomington, and all the men would ride over on the trains and bring their jugs and this and that. And when the train would get to Mount Pulaski, the conductor would yell, "All off for Vinegar Hill."
I love that story.
And so then they'd come in, spend the day in the community, fill up their jugs, and head home and stuff. So.
Well, you kind of got like a little foretaste of this doggone coronavirus because there were so many back then, businesses, particularly the little saloons, that really lost their shirts. Yeah, and I think it is kind of similar today.
Today, there's a lot of businesses that are doing as well as they've ever done. If you're in some of the hardware business, the restoration business, there's the tech companies, a lot of people are doing very, very well, but then on the other end of that, there's those that are being devastated. Well, I'm sure during that period of time, there were a lot of communities who really lost a lot. But Mount Pulaski, a lot of fortunes were made because they remained open, and a lot of land got transferred and a lot of money got made. So.
Well, good for Vinegar Hill. Great.
There's just more than we're going to talk about the market on the hill, but down through the years, that's been a community who's been known who get together and put their shoulders together and take care of their community. And so I've always had a kind of a warm spot for Vinegar Hill. I didn't call it Vinegar Hill until I was much older. I didn't know anything about Vinegar Hill, of course. But my associations with the Vinegar Hill folks and the Martins in particular go back a long, long, long way. So it's a joy for me to have young Tom Martin with us. His brother, his dad, in fact, was his fraternity brother of mine. Much older. I emphasize much older. Seriously, grandfather was, what was his agricultural Agricultural Stabilization and Control. I think that what was called.
Grandpa
did
Harry
that.
Sr. was the first Farm Service Agency chairman of that board and stuff when they got established back in the 40s.
Farm Service. Now, what was that as
it's a
opposed to
government-
like
it's a
Farm
government.
Bureau?
It's a USDA entity. It's the agency out on Fifth Street that handles all the programs for USDA and all the government programs, and that's who we do all of our reporting to.
Okay.
Something that worked
Something that works?
with the government.
Oh, say, listen, I just learned today that our Leicester's legislature isn't going to open very quickly here. They decided that they're not essential workers, I guess.
Well, I think that's appropriate. They are not essential. With a couple of exceptions, one of them being our friend Tim Butler, who is very gracious to come up and talk with us up here. But those clowns down there, they all have their own little drum and they beat this drum will beat that beat, and another drum will beat another beat. They don't seem to be able to get together.
Well, if they ever do, it'll either be the good news or the bad news.
All right, let's get down to serious business. Let's talk about Market on the Hill. Tom, just take it from the top, as they say in showbiz. This is showbiz, isn't it? Anyway, how the concept of the Market on the Hill, and tell us how that grew.
About 3 years ago, Mount Pulaski formed an economic development board to start working with strictly economic development, working with local
Community
businesses.
leaders, citizens.
Yeah, and we're appointed by the city council, and we're volunteers, and we have monies from a business tax, 1% business tax that the city council passed, strictly for economic development. And then I think we discussed a little bit, the last time I was up here was when the wind farms were looking at coming in, and we had a citizens group that fought that a little bit, and when it did pass and come through, we negotiated and worked with the wind farm owners to get contributions into the community for economic development. So we have a pool of money.
So that worked out well, as it turns out.
Yeah, we
I
tried to make
remember-
the best of a bad situation, and what we tried to do is then make it not just about the people who had leased their land for the farm, but we try to make it about the whole community and about those people who lived within the wind farm itself that were not participating financially with it. So we try to get some funds into everybody's hands, and the wind farm company was responsive to that and wanted to see economic development. So we used those monies, and back 3 years ago when we first began, we tried to identify 2 or 3 major priorities, goals that we wanted to work toward, and one of those was trying to get some type of a grocery store back into the community. We had lost ours in 16, and we knew that for our town to develop and to kind of remain vibrant, remain a community where people would want to come to live. It's pretty hard to do that when they come and visit your town and there's no groceries there.
Yeah, that's
Right.
kind of essential,
It's
isn't
tough,
it?
and we get by. People would get by that drive, to Lincoln or Decatur or Springfield, but we had a lot of our elderly citizens who that's a really chore for, and then we knew we couldn't be a full service grocery store. We reached out to several, and they said you don't have the size of town that they could come into. And we also knew the sole proprietor type of old grocery store that we were all familiar with in many of our small towns. The margins are so thin in the grocery business anymore that you really can't even support a family or a sole proprietor with that. So we had to look for a different model, and through educating ourselves on that, we came up with a co-op model where we would raise monies and sell shares to community members to raise the funds, and then we strive to be a profitable business, but we're not having to support a family or a sole proprietor. So the co-op model was what we pursued. We had some expertise in the Rural Affairs Council from Western Illinois University, had some of their Sean Park, who is an expert in in that field in co-ops, and his background was grocery stores, came in and worked with us, and the community got excited. Our first meeting in the community, we had about 120 people there. The first night we raised over $60,000 of our $120,000 goal, and within 2 months we'd raised the $120,000. So the
Wow.
community was ready for it, and that's part of it. We came up with the idea, but the community had to be there for support, or we'd probably moved on. But that was part of our goal, was to make it a community activity, a community event, to where we got investment from them and they bought into the idea.
So the Market on the Hill is not a sole proprietorship; it's a community owned. And you have shared with me off air, how many shareholders are there in your group?
Yeah, I think we have about 120 stockholders, and then we have probably another about 50 or 60 members. You can have a membership. You also have the memberships allow you to vote, but it's like it's $100 membership, so it allows you to participate in the activities and participate. And you don't have to be an owner to shop there. I mean, we're trying to market all of southern Logan County and all of Logan County, but the owners get the ability to partake in the management and the voting and running of the store.
And did I read somewhere that you had local people who were providing the beef and the pork for the store?
Yeah, that was one of our main goals, is not just to open and have the basic staples on the shelves. We wanted to promote local produce, local meats, and try and develop that business model for those people who wanted to have maybe 5 acres of produce or raise livestock. Our whole goal, we saw that people want to know where their food is coming from more and more. Pandemic has kind of thrown some fuel on that fire a little bit, but we wanted to promote local entrepreneurs in this area. And what's happened is that is our main driver right now. It's flying off the shelves. It's bringing a lot of people into the market. Our staples are doing okay, but our local produce, our local meats and everything are really what's driving the store's profitability right now, and that's just after a month and a half.
Well, speaking of local produce, Judy, I may have to just step on our lines here, because we have some sponsors that are local producers.
Oh, okay.
We're going to defer to them right now. Go ahead, Mr. Rash. Right back live in the studios here. The program, of course, is Viewpoint. Our guest this morning, I'd like to remind both of you listeners out there, don't forget each Wednesday, 8:15 to 0900 hours, have a very special guest, at least to this old fella, young Tom Martin. He's not young anymore, but he is to me.
I always like seeing you, Bill.
Representing Vinegar Hill, the village of the community of Mount Pulaski. And our subject this morning is the Market on the Hill. And it's kind of an exciting thing to see these people get together over there, Judith, and create what has happened. And now, of course, the big thing is we need to continue to know about that place. And by the way, I don't want to take anything away from IGA, of course, but I wouldn't want to take anything away from old Billy. Anyway, you would accept Lincoln customers over there in a heartbeat, wouldn't you?
I know we've had plenty of them already. So right.
Warrensburg or wherever.
Yep,
Yes, right.
Yep.
Well, it's a great thing, kind of an exciting thing for the community to have their own store, and it's just not a staple store. You're offering produce, fresh stuff. You're offering fresh meats. That's a big thing. So, if you were to start with a commercial right now, Tom, what would you say would be your biggest attraction over there?
Well, I think it is our emphasis on fresh local produce, both meats and vegetables, and then kind of showcasing not only fresh produce like that, but Saucy's honey, Funk's Grove, Jeff Hake and his wife Kate and their family providing us flour from the farms,
really,
and other products. Yeah, they make their own flour.
Really?
And I wish Jeff was here, then he could explain it better than I can. But they have a whole lot of products he has a organic grain business, along with the syrup. They have a lot going on there. People kind of just, I think, look at Funk's Grove as a syrup, but they have a lot of things happening there right now that they're doing. But they provide us the flour, but one thing we're trying to do is emphasize all the local producers. Hochstetler's pork is there. Sean Tyson and Kim provide a lot of the beef, and then he's using a lot of the beef producers around our part of the world. So we're trying to emphasize and support those people, those businesses who are doing local foods.
Well, you were were saying earlier that you've been blessed with a little influx of young people
Yes.
coming to town and saying, let's get off the dime, let's try something.
Yeah, my hope is that's happening everywhere, but I know in my community, the last 3 to 4 years, we've had a lot of, again, it's a matter of perspective, Bill, what we consider young, but people's in their 20s and 30s who want to live in Mount Pulaski and raise their families there, and they want the community to change. They want to bring it back the way it used to be a little bit in the 50s and 60s and 70s. They're very community minded, and they know that we need, the only way a community of our size is going to prosper and move forward is people being involved and doing things ourselves. That's one of our message is when we talk to the community is that nobody from the outside is going to come in necessarily and do all the things that we want to see done. We have to do it from the grassroots up. And a lot of young people on our committees now, our city council is younger. I mean, we really have a dynamic going on that is very exciting. And they want to have the influence on what their community becomes. I think I mentioned to you before, I think they see that we've kind of been stuck in the mud for a lot of years, and the people who have been directing the community have been kind of reluctant to change anything, which we all get to that point sometimes. They want to see changes, and they want to be part of that. So I look at it, and I'm very excited.
I see a great-grandfather, Harry J. Weibel, who was a great promoter for Mount Pulaski. And I see another great-grandfather, Harry Martin, who was a great citizen over there and one of the real supporters. They're sitting up there smiling. They're beaming at what you have been able to. You followed in their footsteps.
Well,
those genes they've taken.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a community when it was like many small communities all around us. Yeah. That were vibrant, took care of themselves, had celebrations, had businesses, their town squares were full. But then I've also been there through the demise of that. And so I think our community, like many other communities, we're no different, but we finally decided to drive a stake in the sand and say we're not going backwards anymore, we're going forwards. And I think that we're at a crossroads that it's getting harder and harder to do that. We're blessed to still have our school system, and from K through 12, we have a nice parochial school in town that has over 110 kids in it. We're building a new high school. Inland Tool is adding, almost doubling their size in their facility over there. We have and one thing we're looking at is if all these young people want to be there, what's our next step? Besides a grocery now. Now we have a daycare committee trying to look at daycare, which we think is one of the most important things. Everybody has a daycare problem situation. There's so many regulations, and it's so hard for individuals to get into it. So we're looking at possibly a community daycare system to where the community comes in, puts this together, and helps run it and management. But we're just at the very beginning of this. It's going to be a long process, several years probably before we can come up with an answer. But everybody, all our local daycare facility providers, all like individuals in their homes, and they all have lists of over 100 people who want to bring their kids, but there's no place to put all these kids that need daycare.
Well, the essence of this is Mount Pulaski, they opted not to just dry up. They opted to grow up and not grow up physically, but they have a bunch of people over there bound determined that we're not going to become a Burton View.
Well, yeah.
With all respect to my roots.
Right, yeah. Fortunately, we still have a lot of the dynamics in our community, like I say, with the schools and some industry and some employment, and because of our location, like Lincoln, where a lot of people work in Decatur, Springfield, Blooming, there's opportunities to work and then come home and live there. I think we've just the core group of people, and I truly believe the city council. I mean, one reason I think we're being successful is the city council and economic development and the other organizations in town are all on the same page. We're all trying to move in the same direction. And a lot of times you find what I believe is a lot of the communities that are struggling everybody has their own little fiefdom and trying to do their own thing. and I'll tell this to everybody, one of the reasons we're moving forward is because we're all trying, we debate, we differ sometimes, but we all come to the same spot to where how do we move our community forward.
Because you have the same common goal. Now, let's place this physically. Let's place the market on the hill on the northwest side of the square. Would you say that would be the essence of it?
Northeast side, southeast corner of the square.
Oh, I thought it was over.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. It's over where the old Holmes's garage corner.
Yeah.
it's on Cook and
well.
Cook and Lafayette.
I was way off.
Yeah. Well, you'd have found it when you drove around the square. So.
You know, that used to be one of the places in the community where you could park your car in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
I don't think you do that anymore over there.
No, probably not. So.
What do you suppose these young people that you've thankfully gotten to move to your community, what made them make that decision, do you think? Because you were blessed.
Yeah, you need to bring them in sometime and talk to them. But I think it's a simpler time. I think everybody is so stressed out. Everybody's working. The spouses are working. The husbands are working. Or the husbands and wives are working, and the kids are running around. And I think people are looking for a little bit simpler life. And a small
Mayberry.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think a simpler time. They want to get back to that a little bit. They want the school system is really a very, very good school system, and it's smaller. You know all your teachers really well, and so I think there's some dynamics there that they just want to, and I think they feel safe, to be honest with you, a little bit.
A young family wouldn't want to move to Chicago or Minneapolis.
Right.
You could be the statistics this coming weekend,
right.
you know?
So there's so much going on that's out of our control around the world that I think sometimes you just want to control your space a little bit more. And you know, with Von Relief Living Center and the schools there and this and that, a lot of people move there, and then their parents will move to town for a while and then have the ability to move on to Von Relief and have them a few blocks from home. There's just a lot of life dynamics, the way I look at it, of what people want out of their life besides just work and salary and everything else. Some of those amenities.
648-5510. Our guest this morning, young Tom Martin, talking about the the market on the hill, not Vinegar Hill. A dynamic new development for the folks in the Mount Pulaski area, and it's exciting to hear Tom's excitement about this grocery store, for want of a better word, because it's more than that. It's more than just going and get your box of cereal and a gallon of milk. You're offering your customers a pretty doggone good spread of offerings from which to choose.
Is that market quite into the organic foods?
Right. No, we're not into the organic end. We're seeking producers who do that, and they can offer that, but we're not trying to say that we're an organic producer. We're more local foods is what we're probably promoting, and locally sourced foods. So there are a lot of organic producers who are supplying us probably with some of their products, but we're not specifically for that.
Well, there's a segment of society who's very into organic. I don't think it's Bill or me, but
I'm organic. I think we should mention, Tom, that your market, your grocery store, how do you want to call it, a market or a grocery store?
Either one, but I think we'll call it a market right now because that's in our name. So
that's all right, fine. Is locally owned by a co-op group and is locally managed by somebody who lives in Mount Pulaski. So you have that first-person connection all the time. You have somebody who is really interested in doing well.
Right. I mean, and it's controlled by a local board. I mean, they're the ones who help our manager manage it. Our manager is Sam Brown. She's from Chestnut, a young woman who didn't really have a grocery background, but she's come in with a concept of what's best for the community and trying hard to learn all the aspects of the grocery business. And it's a learning process because none of us on the board or Sam have that experience. So we're all kind of learning on the go, and that's not always easy. But we're with technology today, I know our sales receipt system is with Square, so we can immediately read out what's selling, what time of day,
See how you're
everything's
doing.
selling. Right, and we're really working hard. You know, the first step was to open the doors and unlock the
Yes.
doors. As soon as that happened, now it's becoming a business that's run profitably, and we have to be able to move and change and meet the demands of our customers. And we're working really hard to make sure we've got a lot of business people on the board, and we're trying to really try to stay a step ahead of this. We're blessed to have some working capital, you know, and but at the same time, we want to be able to run our store and return profits to our owners.
I think
but
there's a
you've
big,
got
big
such a
point to be
big
made
thing
there,
here.
though. The folks who invested, they didn't make that investment in your community to make any money. They
Right.
did that because they wanted to be a part of your community.
Right.
I think that's important.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Almost everyone, the reason they put their funds up, their hard-working monies up, is to be able to bring this to the community. But at the same time, as a board and as management, our goal is to run a profitable business, and if we can, and hopefully use some of those monies to put back into the business and make it a better business, but also a sign of our success would be able to give dividends back someday. And that's probably 4 or 5 years down the line. So you're exactly right, Bill, on that. But I think you always have to keep that goal, that vision, if that's what you are able to do.
How do you manage with the different suppliers of the vegetables and the meats? Does the beef man come and bring his produce on Monday, and the rutabaga man comes Tuesday? Or
Yeah,
don't allow rutabaga.
Sam and those producers would be the best ones to answer that question. But what I know is, actually, those who supply our meat, those who supply most of our produce, they sit on our board. So there's constant contact between our manager, Sam, and those people. I mean, they're in constant contact. And if I know the meat is all dependent on when we can get it processed. So
Yeah.
that is on a regular schedule, okay?
Now, I understand that to get to the processor at this time was kind of a hard job.
Yeah.
They were very busy.
Yeah, he's using all local processors, mainly out of Springfield and Bloomington. And before the pandemic hit, it wasn't a problem. You could get dates set. But once that hit, local beef, local produce, local pork, all of that, it really became emphasized of more people wanting that for their freezers. They wanted to get a hold of it. And so they booked up very quickly, all these smaller butchers and stuff. Fortunately, our beef producer, Sean, was kind of a step ahead of the game, and he got about 7, I'm not sure how many, but 30 or 40 dates set up throughout the year, which allows us then to keep a constant supply coming to the store. And I think the Hochstadlers, who provide a lot of our pork, had a lot of that lined up too. And so from that standpoint, we're really in good shape on our meats. Our produce, a lot of it's coming locally from Kyle Reed, who just began Hilltop Community Gardens. It's a 5-acre garden on the hill there in Mount Pulaski. And I think if you would talk to Kyle, he's been a little overwhelmed also. You asked how we get the produce up there. Sam will call Kyle and say, the shelves are bare, you know, what do you have? And he'll bring up his produce and refill the shelves if he's available within the hour. So we have fresh produce coming hours after it's been picked onto the
It's
shelves.
really fresh.
And so what happens there too is what we're finding out is that lasts a lot longer. Instead of being shipped and
Sure.
picked and it's already a week old or so, this produce will last a lot longer, which in turn is a lot less waste. And that's our goal too, is we're trying to be friendly, ecologically friendly and this and that, and we have a lot of waste now. We're trying to reduce that, in the world, and it's one of the worst things I think we all do is throw out foods when we haven't eaten them, and that's disappointing. So we're really working on that end of it, and we have found out too that with Kyle and his fresh produce and the other people who are supplying us, that people want to know where their foods are coming from, And what we're trying to do is introduce them to these people and make sure that on their web pages and at the store, they're part of the store. So you go in there and you see the people who are providing your food.
So we kind of have a Mayberry attitude, a small town.
Right.
And I don't use that in a derogatory term when I say Mayberry. It's because that's the essence of a small town is
Right.
kind of a Mayberry type thing.
Right, right.
And that's the beautiful part of it. The 648-5510. Somebody over there in Vinegar Hill might have a comment or two about their good look and their feelings about having a nice new grocery store, for want of a better term, which is exactly what it is. Right there, and you don't have to go to Warrensburg or Chestnut, as Billy Randolph used to say. It's nice to have it right there.
Right. And we're not an end-all. I mean, we know we can't provide everything. That you'd walk into a Schnucks or an IGA or a Hy-Vee and be able to buy all your groceries and all your needs there. We're providing a service to our community that you can buy some of your staples, you can provide fresh fruits and vegetables and meats, but also it saves you if you just need something for supper that night instead of having to run somewhere to finish out a recipe that you have. You run up there. So it's a matter of convenience. That's a big part of what we're trying to do too. So we know we can't service we can't be a complete grocery store, but that's not who we are. We're trying to capture maybe 15% or 20% of your grocery monies, and if we can do that, we think we can be successful.
Now, how about the new young people who come to your town, thank you God? Are they being real pleased with this effort?
Oh, well, I think they're thrilled with it. They also want to see us continue to move forward with all the other aspects of how to make our community better. This is the first step, and we continue to work hard at moving forward. But a lot of the young folks, they're interested in the health end of it. We have a health committee, and a lot of our younger folks are on that committee to say, trying to promote healthy eating for not only adults but also the children, because they want to get it into the schools. They want the children to be able to learn how to eat healthy,
yes.
So that'll carry over. But they're a big driver in how we're operating this market and what we're doing. So, well,
that'll be a good thing for them to learn. Man cannot live by Pop-Tarts alone.
Right. The Lincoln School District, Unit 27, which is I assume is the K through 8, I believe.
Yes, it is.
That's correct.
Yeah, we just met with their food service Connie yesterday. They have a wonderful program where they're trying to source 100% of their food locally.
Is that?
And they're at the point right now, I think they're at that 75% level to where they can get it. And she met with us yesterday on one of our committee meetings talking about that. And a lot of work and a lot of change, but they are moving forward and really accomplishing a lot of what they've set out to do.
Well, the beauty of it is these people setting these goals,
right,
and then achieving them, and at least making progress in that direction. Now, you can't be a milk supplier, I don't suppose.
We have a local milk supplier out of Delavan, the Little Brown Dairy, and Little Brown Dairy milks fly off our shelves. We can't keep them there long enough.
Is that right?
Yeah, but out of Delavan, Illinois, I think they got established 4 or 5 years ago where they're producing their own milk and this and that, and it's wonderful.
Well, there again,
so
that's a
you
local
found
business in
Delavan.
Delavan.
What we found out is once we opened the door and said we want local, we found out all these people around Central Illinois and around Illinois who are already doing these things, but they need that market.
You didn't know it until
we knew some of them, but we didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the dairy was there, and now that we do, and so we're finding out that there's more and more of these small businesses, small family-run businesses out there that provide the type of product and type of produce and foods that people are demanding today. So it's exciting. And if we can keep all those dollars, not only locally, and we turn. I know Bill Thomas with the Logan County Economic Development. If we could keep the food dollars within our sphere of influence here in the county, it's like a $7 million influx of monies into the county and into the local economy. So when you think about how much money we spend on food,
yes,
yeah, if we can keep it here, that's our goal, and that's our goal locally in Mount Pulaski, but should be our goal for the whole county.
Well, yeah. Do you suppose you could set up a board and serve on all of them in each community in the county? Would you be willing to do that, please?
I don't think I need to. I think there's people there. I think we're willing to share our experiences. I mean, we've got a lot of people, we've been reached out to by a lot of small towns right now. They want us to come and talk to them and this and that. But I think the expertise is there in every county. We'll share our experiences, but I don't think we need to be, the people who need to be moving this forward are the people within their own communities. You know, we can't do it for other people. We could do it for our community because we had the passion for that.
Yes.
But you need the passion and you need the commitment and you need the community to get on board. So.
Well, boy, you sold them something. That's great.
Well, you know, I don't know if I sold it to them. I just I saw the need. And the community is the one who, if they wouldn't have stepped forward, it would have never have happened. All right, so.
Would that we could clone you and give one of you
There's
to.
plenty of people out there who would say that's the wrong way to go.
I'm not sure Jeannie Weibel would have wanted that. The community over there has always, down through the years, been a very self-supportive, close-knit community. And by the way, they have a pretty good musical program over there. They have put on nice band concerts over there in the that wonderful old historic courthouse block you have over there.
Yeah.
A neat thing for the community to have. I remember, Tom, when I was a kid in high school, the Mount Pulaski Lincoln basketball rivalry was a big deal.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a real rivalry.
Right. I mean, during the years where it was competitive.
Those were the innocent days.
Right. It was a rivalry, especially for a small town playing the big town. I mean, it was probably the game of the year for Mount Pulaski and that area. And then, you know, during my era and a little bit before, the late 60s and the 70s, just wasn't competitive anymore. And it kind of took away some of that urgency and stuff. But during the heyday, it was a big game, hopefully
very
for
vibrant.
both communities.
Harry J. Weibel, your grandfather, was a real mover and shaker over there. He, as I alluded to earlier, a Mount Pulaski Times News publisher and owner, and he was a real community-minded man. I remember years ago, I set up a little satellite station there for pickups for dry cleaning.
Right.
And Harry was a big supporter of ours because we were new in the community and we were offering a service the community did not have.
Right.
And he gave me a lot of advice, and he became a very close friend of mine, although I'd known him for years before that. It's a joy to be in areas we are here in Lincoln and surrounded by communities such as Mount Pulaski, because there's a cohesiveness, people coming together, and that's what you saw over there with your co-op as you developed that idea of people joining up and saying, this is good for my community.
Right.
And I'll bet you, as I alluded to earlier, there wasn't one investor that invested for the money.
Right.
Oh, no.
And I think you're probably right. And I just think as we move into the future, it's community, businesses, people joining forces together is going to have to be the way we, move forward and try and bring the amenities and certain businesses into our town, because it just is the old school way of sole proprietorship. Business is just in a small community just isn't going to happen much anymore, I don't think.
Well, you sure got a handle on it over there.
Well, a lot of people are there. I mean, our hardware business, Doug Johnson, he's bought the old grocery store, and he's doubling his size and renovating that whole building. We've got, unfortunately, our furniture store closed, Stahl's furniture store closed, but we've got people looking at buying that warehouse. We've got a dynamic going on that once one domino falls, some people are picking it up and moving forward and saying, instead of being sad about it, here's an opportunity. And so we're just trying to be very proactive.
So much of progress is in people's way of looking at things, isn't it?
Right, I agree.
It was good to know that Inland Tool has developed and expanded. That's a good thing. That's been kind of a little sleeper business over there that nobody knew much about.
Yeah, they've done wonderful work. They employ a lot of not only local people, but a lot of people from the surrounding area. And like I say, they just, I think, doubled their size and are adding 20 to 30 new jobs. So it's exciting for our community,
Hallelujah.
exciting for Logan County.
And as commuting workers, take advantage of that nice little grocery store you have there.
There we go. Yeah. You're a good promoter, Bill.
Would you like to sum up, Mr. Martin? Our guest this morning has been Tom Martin, a dear friend of ours from way back. almost from the time Tom was whelped. So that's a day or two. Would you like to sum up, Tom, and talk us a little bit about the market on the hill as we close?
Yeah, right now we've been overwhelmed, to be honest with you. We opened our doors and wanted a kind of a soft opening, and we were packed and full for the first 2 to 3 weeks. We were doing more business in a day than we thought we'd do in a week there for a while. Now things have calmed down a little bit, which is good, and it's letting us get our feet on the ground and figure out. We're always going to be changing. We're always trying to find out what our customers want, what they need. I mean, we never opened our doors and said, this is what it's going to be for the next 10 years. We know we have to be able to be flexible and vibrant, and be a community member and reach out to them. And so I think that we've had a great start, but we have to be able to adjust and adapt to the changing conditions and provide our community in our area with what they need. And I think we will be able to do that because we've got our ears open and our eyes open and trying to ask questions and make sure we're doing the right thing for what the community wants.
Thank you, Tom Martin, representing the Market on the Hill in Mount Pulaski. Now, again, its location around the square is, Tom?
It's located at 125 South Lafayette Street on the corner of Lafayette and Cook.
Thank you very much, Tom. We'll close Viewpoint as well. I always try to make some sort of a close here with it. And the one that I always come up with is, be the reason somebody smiled today.